Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Leavenworth Preservation Commission, Wednesday, June 12th, 2019. It is 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I believe we have a quorum since there are four of us. Okay. Yes. And as everybody had a chance to review the minutes. I thought you said something. No, I was just saying, I was asking if everyone has had a chance to review the minutes.
Yes.
Would someone care to generate a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the last meeting, April 3rd.
Second it.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we accept the minutes from the last meeting. I'll start with Deb as a vote, please.
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 in favor of accepting the minutes. Okay. Let's look at our old business. That'll be our first point. Okay. I'm going to ask my obvious question. Is there anyone here to represent the property at 202 Potawatomi Street? You are here. How are you, sir? Okay. Would you care to?
Well, we'll do the staff report
report,
first,
yes.
and then, yeah, we can get to public comments and comments from the property owner.
Thank you.
Okay?
We'll do the staff report.
So again, this is a review of 202 Potawatomi Street. This property is listed on the State Historic Register of Historic Places. The applicant is the city of Leavenworth. We've identified this as being eligible for demolition based on criteria found in the state statute. It is in disrepair and a blighting influence on the neighborhood. So just a quick recap of what we've been through with this property so far. The city commission reviewed the structure at their meeting on June 26th of 2018 and placed it on an ordinance for potential demolition. At that time, they gave the property owner an extension until October 9th to begin repairs on the property. The Preservation Commission has reviewed this 3 times: on July 11th, 2018, October 3rd, 2018, and the last time was on January 2nd of 2019. At the last meeting, the property owner indicated that he has applied to the state of Kansas for grant funds to be used in the repairs needed to this property. We've spoken to the State Historic Preservation Office, and they indicated that those grants should be awarded in May of this year. So we haven't heard what the outcome of those grants was, but the property owner could let us know the status of his grant application. So just a quick review of what staff had identified as needing to be completed in order to make this not eligible for demolition. The roof needed repair or replacement. The siding, soffits, and eaves, and guttering needed repair and replacement. And the entire exterior of the structure needed to be scraped of peeling paint and painted again. So again, it's here because it is a registered historic property. So the city of Leavenworth is the applicant on this, and what we're looking for is a motion of it is eligible for demolition or it is not eligible for demolition. A vote by this board saying that it is eligible for demolition would then allow it to move back to the city commission, where they would make a determination of whether or not they wanted to proceed with demolition on that. So this body is not deciding whether or not it will get demolished, just whether or not it is eligible. So just to run through the required state reviews that we have for historic property. The first is that a property shall be used for its historic purpose or be placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its site and environment. The structure was constructed as a residential building. As far as we know, it's currently vacant. The second is that the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Again, the entire structure is proposed to be demolished. It's previously been damaged by fire and has not been fully restored after that fire. The historic clapboard siding present when the house was constructed was previously covered with asbestos siding, and it's now been exposed by the removal of that asbestos siding. The third is that each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. It is proposed to be demolished, and there are no additions proposed to the building. The fourth is that most properties change over time. Those changes that have acquired historic significance in their own right shall be retained and preserved. Since it is proposed to be demolished, but there are no known changes to the original structure with historic significance. The fifth is that distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property shall be preserved. And again, since it is proposed to be demolished, no portions of it are proposed to be preserved. Number 6 is that deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of distinctive feature, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and, where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by documentary, physical, or pictorial evidence. There are a number of deteriorated or missing historic features on this property, including the original clapboard siding and an original walk above the front porch, which those features have not been repaired or restored at this time. Number 7 is that chemical or physical treatments such as sandblasting that cause damage to historic material shall not be used. The surface cleaning of structures, if appropriate, shall be undertaken using the gentlest means possible. Again, the entire building is proposed to be demolished. Number 8, significant archaeological resources affected by a project shall be protected and preserved. If such resources must be disturbed, mitigation measures shall be undertaken, and there are no known significant archaeological resources on this property. Number 9, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. Again, there's no new construction proposed as this. It is proposed to be demolished. And the final is that new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that, if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. And again, it is proposed to be demolished in its entirety. So we did go out and get pictures today. Really the only changes from the last time this board reviewed the property is that the majority of the tar paper has been removed. That was under that asbestos siding that had been taken off, and so you were left with most of the building covered in that tar paper. That has been removed for the most part. However, that clapboard siding hasn't been repaired or painted. The windows have not been replaced. So really, aside from the tar paper being removed, there's been no changes to the property since the last time the board reviewed it. And I would also point out that while it's not a condition for demolition, there are a number of other property maintenance violations on this property, including a brush pile that's been there for a number of months and a car that's been parked under a tarp that appears to be inoperable. So this is just the state of the property right now. And again, the property owner is here and can answer any questions you might have.
Just one question before he gets up. Excuse me, sir. Am I correct in understanding that the city has given him until October of this year?
That was last year.
That was last
The city
year.
commission voted in June, on June 26th of last year, to give him until October of last year to make repairs. And those repairs have not been undertaken.
Okay.
And then we gave him an extension in January, if I recall. Right?
Gave him an extension, this board gave him an extension in October 3rd. He was not present at that meeting, so I think that was one of the main reasons that this board decided to give that extension. You reviewed it again in January, and that's the point where he let us know that he had applied for the grant funds, and the vote at that time was to give him an extension until after those grant funds had been awarded, so that he would have a better picture of his financial resources for improving the property.
Okay.
Okay,
And did, another question for the committee, did we request some type of progress schedule last fall from the applicant, or from the owner, as far as schedule of improvements and so forth?
I think it was in the notes.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
trying to get back to it. He had emailed at one point last fall. And maybe it's not. Should have been in here somehow. Oh, yeah, it's an email that he had sent, looks like this, that is in your packet. So that his plans for the home, were to, in October, to repair and replace the gutters, soffits, eaves, and complete the roofing. In November, replace doors, siding work would begin after that. And that was sent to us on October 22nd of last year.
Thank you, Julie. That's the only questions I have right now.
Some questions you have? Deb, do you have any questions at the moment? Mr. Giles, if you would come forward, please. How are you, sir?
Actually, I am kind of tired, but this is my grandma's house. I'm getting up for this.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'll begin with pretty much the obvious question. Did you hear back from the Kansas State Preservation?
Yes, sir, I have, and this is my second time putting in, and it got denied. And I asked, this time I called and asked why, and they said they want a clearer scope of work for the thing. So I'm putting it one more time, but as you can see from the last hearing, gutters have been put up there and progress have been made. See, what y'all don't see is me up there pulling them nails and staples out from that asbestos, and that got to be caulked and all that stuff or whatnot. And also, what y'all haven't shown pictures of all them trees that fell in my yard from the neighbors. You see the fence is damaged. It wasn't like that last time. So for the last 2 weeks, we've been cutting wood and moving everything. And if you see my weatherhead, it damaged it and knocked it down. Right up here. So now I got to get the weatherhead replaced again by the end of June. That's what the electric company said. But as I start to say, like I do every meeting, the city of Leavenworth have not walked through my house one single time. The historical committee, Kansas, Topeka, walked through it pretty much after the fire, where you barely could walk through it, and they deemed it historical. Like I said, the wood floors, impressive to me. Don't even crack. The bones, like I said, is good. It's just cosmetics. So, and with the house, if you look at the siding, there's not a whole bunch of boards that needs to be replaced. Just a little bit on that back wall, maybe like 10 or 15 boards, lap board siding. And I have a bid, because I don't know if the city works with contractors or not, but every contractor that I work for said it would be redundant to put in windows and doors if you haven't did the sidings and stuff yet. So the siding's been my main issue, and I have threw the ball back at the city or whatnot, even emailed the mayor and other people, and they said that they can have volunteers come through, and I haven't seen any volunteers come through. Because he seen me on the ladder just pulling all them staples and nails out. He said, "You do need help," and I said, "Yeah." And I didn't really want to bring this up, but this is what I feel a little bit. Every time I come with a project, it seems like Leavenworth has this good old boy system where it helps everybody out, and I'm not a part of that. So I had to go outside of the Leavenworth. So I got somebody in Takamatsu that said they can handle that siding in August. And the guy that I got here from a construction company And I emailed that to the city too. He already gave me a quote for the bid, but he said that rain delayed all his projects with the decks and all of that. So if I could give another time with the siding and everything, probably could be done. It's probably everything complete. It's maybe August 1st, maybe 15th, because all that rain done pushed everybody back. But like I said, I know a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people, houses helping houses, but it seems like me, I've been the corporation. I've been running it, calling around for bids and whatnot. Like I said, I got the windows and doors, you know, and to put in the grants, you got to have some money, you know. And I put in for like maybe 60, 70,000, and you got to have 15% of that. And so, yeah, I got some money to get everything fixed. But the thing is, and I can ask y'all too, if y'all know somebody that can replace the siding, because my money's green like everybody else's, but it seems like I've been pushed to the side. So I got 2 bids coming up, and like I said, the doors. It looks like it's just the siding and the doors, and I don't know which window she's talking about, because it looks like to me the windows just need probably just maybe be scraped and painted. But overall, this house just needs the pressure washer and painting and the doors, and that should appease the city. But I don't know what else she said. Oh, and as for this house to be demolished, to me that's almost like a crazy thought in my head when it's just cosmetics. I know I got a corner lot, and that's a lot of lot there. And a lot of people been trying to get that lot, and I know that for a fact. Nothing's wrong with this house. Every contractor that came in this house said it's beautiful, and once it gets fixed up, and they've been inside of it.
But I think from our perspective, it's not so much about what is inside of the house. The challenge that we've had is looking at the external portion of it and looking at, we provided an extension of time in order to address that issue, which was at your request. And the baseline for that was that you were going to request a supplement from the State Preservation Commission. And so we extended the time frame so that you would have a chance to make your presentation to them and for them to give us some feedback on what it is as to whether or not you were going to be awarded the grant or whether or not you were not going to be awarded the grant.
But the grant, sir, is irrelevant right now because they said no.
But
So I
that's-
got somebody,
but
that's why I got the bid.
But that's precisely where I'm at, is that was what our extension was based on, was that fact that it was going to be reviewed by them. So I believe that we postponed making some kind of determination or recommendation to try to allow you 2 things: to see if the grant was going to come through, and then also to provide you an extra amount of time to do some adjustments to the outside of the building.
And I did the gutters.
I mean, and I realize that some adjustments have been done to that. My concern is that we keep pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. They're asking us for a recommendation, and our recommendation so far has been that we've kind of tabled providing them a recommendation. But from what I'm seeing today and what I'm hearing, my reservation has been based on trying to let the state preservation folks determine if they were going to be able to assist you. And since they have determined that they're not going to be able to assist you, that kind of brings it to a close from my point of view on whether or not I'm ready to determine on how we go forward with the recommendation.
Now, like I said, that's irrelevant right now. Like I said, the state was supposed to assist me. I said they can help me, but it's like the way you come at me is like, without them, I can't do it. I said, no, with them helping me, it would help me out, you know, but I have the funds to.
No, sir, I'm not saying that is not the statement that I'm making. The specifics of my statement is that was where my reservations were lying. You've answered my question, so I'm going to defer to Mr. Otto because I believe he has a comment this time. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. You know, it's irrelevant. You know, the state is not going to give us any money at this point, or yourself. You mentioned a couple bids.
Yes, sir.
What bids do you have in that can be completed in a very short amount of time?
I know the one in Tonkanatsi said they backed up to August. The other one that's in town, that did the gutters and some other things for me in the house, he gave me a quote already in a bid, but he said the rain has backed him up so much so. Like I said, all this can be done, but like I said, we was waiting on the preservation committee, and they said no. So I always got a plan B and C. So now I got somebody that can like get that lab. Or like I said, I asked a whole bunch of people could they work on it, and some of them left me hanging or whatnot. And like I said, with me, this is me. If you put me and all the work that I've done that you see in there, and my income based on everybody else's income, based on I guess the city commission and all that, I'm doing a heck of a job. And I think people from the city's neighborhood or whatnot has an issue with this house, but nobody in my neighborhood is in here complaining. They give me praises that I'm doing something and I'm trying to do something positive. And like I said, this is historic. I don't know too many African-American homes that are historic. That's grassroots. Like I said, if you look at the boards, look how good them boards are. There's just a couple that need to replace. Your pressure washer and paint it. It look like $1 million. And so I just need, like I said, I'm gonna throw the ball in y'all's court. Like, do y'all recommend somebody that can do that? Because everybody that I had pushed it back. It's not haven't been me. It's been like people want to know how much that I got first before they can do it. I'm like, no, what's your bid? And then they don't call me back or whatnot. So, like I said, I always throw the ball back in the court. That's like I asked the
But
city.
sir, you provided the ball back in our court.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna
And
ask
our
my
response
question.
is to your secondary question is, unfortunately, that's not within the limits of our responsibility to provide a recommendation of somebody that could possibly do the work for you. That's not what we're here to help provide.
I'm
We're
basing
here
this off what the mayor and everybody told me that. They
But
said the
that's-
city, no, they said the city can assist when needed. So I just asked a question based on what he told me.
And I'm responding to your question. We're not empowered to do that. What we're simply empowered to do is to review what is presented to us, try to work and be flexible with you, and I believe we've provided an extremely large amount of time for some sort of actions to be taken on that. And I think both of us are operating in good faith, but they're requiring us also to provide some kind of conclusion as to whether we think it can be done or not. Then your next avenue of recourse would be to go visit the city commission after we give them what our opinion is on that, and basically a plea for a sense of extension from them. I think we've done what we're able to do on our end to assist you to the maximum consideration. If they have the ability to override our judgment, and I think that's kind of where you're going to have to redirect your efforts.
But like I said, it's just me. And I know when people are doing projects, doing things, you come up with a budget, you see what all you can. This is just me. Like I said, me doing this whole project by myself, everything. The grass got to be cut, everything. But the siding and everything, like I said, I got somebody that said they can do it. And to me, it kind of disturbs me that this would even be on the demolition list. I go up the street and see houses with holes in them that I can see in the side of it. But like I said, this one, no rats, roaches, nothing. The wood's good. There's just a little small back section that just needs cosmetics, like I said. And that's all cosmetics. What y'all talking about is not bones, not structure. Y'all talking about cosmetics. And I just need to find somebody that can do the work. I can't do it myself. I'm not trained in that. And also, the city was telling me to do a whole bunch of things, but they didn't tell me to cut them limbs over the house. I did it myself. They didn't tell me to take the asbestos siding off. I did it myself because I want to make this national, not just state, So a lot of things been added too. Like the city told me to do something, and then the paper was up. Now y'all want me to get off the paper. That's another thing. And I got off as much as possible. But like I said, I have 2 people that pretty much said they can pretty much do this. Because to me, it's simple. It seems like simple in a way because it's just doors, siding, and I don't know which windows are you talking about. Can you tell me which windows you was talking about?
Well, they just need to be repaired or scraped and painted in a way that they look
So they're not broken?
maintained. What's that?
So they're not broken? And see, and can I ask one more thing? I'm sorry, go ahead. They're not broken?
I mean, we can see that they're not broken, but you can see the window sills are rotted out, and that's, part of what is needing to be
That's part of the
repaired.
siding.
And this was given to Mr. Giles, in May of last year, this list of items to be completed. And since that time, none of these items have been completed.
Excuse me, you said soffits and eaves, that been completed?
And they've been worked on, but
You
there's,
said windows, they've
it's-
been completed.
and they've been worked on, but none of the items have been
The
completed
whole-
100%.
The whole east side didn't have no windows in them, no glass. I put glass, me and my father, if you can see. You put glass here, and here, and the windows didn't have no windows. Those were the only windows that was, didn't have, and it just has some plastic.
And that's fine, and when we talk about windows, we're talking about the framing of the window, not just a broken pane of glass. And so it's apparent in the pictures that there's framing of windows that is still has wood rot, and they're still not repaired in a satisfactory manner.
And one more thing I'd like to say, this house had been having electric and water for the past year and a half, maybe two. So, actually, I can live in the house right now if I want. Like I said, there's plumbing, there's a restroom in there. I can live in a master bedroom or the living room or whatnot. The only area that needs to be addressed is the dining room. And what you don't see is, also the inside. I know y'all looking at the outside, but if it rains or something, I'm gonna go on the inside.
Per state law, all we're allowed to look at is the outside for demolition.
Yeah.
What the state does not allow us to look at the inside. And what we're concerned with is these structures being a blighting influence on the neighborhood. So the blighting influence doesn't come from what's inside the property, it's what's on the outside that the neighborhood is having to experience, and that's really why this one is on the list.
So what you're saying, I probably need to get a petition to everybody in my neighborhood and bring it to y'all, because nobody in my whole entire neighborhood is complaining about this.
But
'Cause
what I'm trying to share with you, Mr. Giles, is that if you're going to do that course of action, you're still going to need to take that to the city commissioners. Hopefully this evening, with one of the recommendations from us, we're going to vote on whether we think it should be a recommendation for it being demolished or not. Once we make our determination, it's still going to go to the city commission. I understand what your suggestions are. I would ask you to simply note those and wait and see what our determination is, and then take those and present them to the city commission, because they are empowered to determine whether you're on the demolition list or not. They're looking for a recommendation from us to whether or not we think you ought to, and I'm going to ask you this time if one of the commissioners has a recommendation to demolish or not demolish.
And it's really that we're looking for a recommendation that it's eligible for demolition or
Thank
not
you.
eligible.
Eligible. I'm
And
sorry.
so then your vote tonight will take to the city commission. It is scheduled for the city commission meeting in 2 weeks. I think it would be the 25th. It'd be a Tuesday. And so they will make a determination, taking into account your vote tonight, and then any information from Mr. Giles.
I got one more thing. When it was on the demolition list, they said this needs to be repaired. Because it's a dangerous structure. That's repaired, right? And then at the last meeting, I said, why is it still on the demolition list? And they said, because there's I think he said, because I could be cited for things.
It's still a blighting influence on the neighborhood,
I
and
didn't
that's
even
been
finish.
explained to you multiple times.
I didn't even finish, sir. I don't forget what, but yeah, the only reason it was on the demolition list is because they said that structure right there was a dangerous structure. So that's what I said last city meeting. I said, I fixed it, so why is it still on it? And they said it's only on it now because it keeps me from getting fines within the yard. So my next question is, what you gonna fine me for? What do I need to replace so I don't get fined? So the only reason they said it was on the demolition list was if it wasn't, I would be getting fines and being in front of the judge like every Thursday or something. That's the last time I talked to the city. But the dangerous structure, what they said, is for.
But since I was not a part, or any of the commissioners here were a part of that conversation, I'm not able to address your statements.
It's
But
on
again,
record.
what we're going to do this evening is, I'm going to ask a commissioner, one of them, to either make a motion to recommend that you are still eligible for demolition, or B, you are not eligible, and then we will vote on it and push it forward to the city commission. So then they can make the final determination. Unfortunately for you and myself here, we don't have the ability to make that determination here. That's what I'm trying to make sure that's communicated to you clearly. So whatever our determination is, you still have an opportunity to come before them in 2 weeks and present more evidence to support your position.
You know, like I said, I'm really not worried. Like I said, I know this house, I don't think it's going to be demolished. It don't even meet the to me. Like I said, the
But
state.
I do appreciate that, but what I'm trying to say is that this is just a dialogue that's going back and forth across the room. In order to make some progress with it, we have to give them some semblance
I
of
understand.
recommendation, and then in order to either agree with that recommendation that we send forward, or to be able to present your position, you're going to need to come before them and do that. So I'm going to ask if any of the commissioners have a recommendation.
Can I say something else, sir?
But, sir, I cannot, even though you keep sharing these pieces with me.
This is from what y'all told me.
Right, but what I'm sharing with you is that we've reached pretty much the end of our ability to do anything or to request any extension of time. We have reached the abilities that we have, and we have provided and shared those with you. So now we've been charged with sending something forward, and that's what I'm going to move, that someone make a recommendation, either that it be taken and no longer be eligible for demolition, or it is eligible for demolition. Okay, sir, that's, because I'm saying, right now, it's a moot point.
But
This
see,
is a conversation back and
this is
forth.
something different. This is something different. According to y'all, y'all said y'all want to see progress.
But the progress has to be still reported forward, and that is what I'm trying to share with you, that you are prohibiting us from doing at this moment. We still need.
Reported?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all, you and the mayor and all, and I think the mayor, and I think some people in the city, I tell everybody what I'm doing monthly. And pretty much. But again, I know you got to wrap this up, but when y'all think about it, it's just a siding, windows and doors. Got the money for windows and doors. I just need a contractor to come, and someone that was willing to come and do that siding.
But I can appreciate that portion of the effort. So commissioners, I will ask if one of you have a recommendation.
I have a question.
Okay,
Mr.
questions,
Giles.
please.
Mr. Giles, that black paper there on the back, is there siding underneath of that black paper?
If I can go up there.
It's on the second floor?
Right here, that's all siding underneath here. Right here was where the fire, so there's plywood under this. So we put plywood under this. This is not the original paper. This is just to keep the rain out. And I know when it rains, most of the rain comes here. If you notice, there's some holes in there. The holes been filled. Who cut all them holes and put that? All that takes time. That's what I say, my progress and y'all, one person, if you look at all them holes, if you look closely, look on the other side. If you can go to the other side, please. This, if you can show this. Yeah, see all them holes? All them, those wood that I did myself, me and my father, okay, put in there to close that. That takes time. So if you come at me, I'm doing the nails, I'm just trying to do it so when the contractor comes, you don't have to put no nails in staples. He can do what he does, just pressure wash it and paint it. So, I've just been assisting where needed, saving some pennies in a way, things I can do that they don't need to do that I can do. But as for putting the siding, I left that all to him, so.
Did you own this house when it caught fire?
Nope, I got it after it cut fire. And with this side, it's only like 3 boards. Right, you see what I'm saying?
And so did you take into consideration when you bought the house that there was gonna have to
I
be?
didn't buy it, it was in my uncle's hands and my father's, and it was me, because I was the only one doing work on it, so my dad gave it to me.
So, but did you think about that that the money that was gonna have to go into this to?
Yeah, and I have it.
Okay, you have it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, I have
But
it.
you're just having problems getting contractors?
Yeah, if you can rerun the city, I asked my first contractor, and he said he wanted 20,000 up front. I'm like, nah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I want, I've been dealing with weird contracts. Like I said, I have people from the city that's been behind me on this project. Like I said, and a representative of the state went through the house that was a historian. She's no longer here, Miss Candy Ruff. She helped me put the paper together and pretty much told me what needed to be replaced and what I can. And she's like a historian, and she's pretty good with a lot of this historical things, like my grandmother was. So I got a lot of people that's been behind me on this project that been inside the home, and that's pretty much all I was saying.
Okay. Well, thank you. Does any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Giles? Okay. Well, I'm willing to entertain a motion.
Can we have a little discussion first,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman? My initial feeling is that we could give him another extension, since he is having such trouble with contractors and it has been such a wet spring to get anything done on the exterior homes. I completely understand that. So I guess I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. We could give him an extension as an option till October, the end of the painting season and the contracting season. And then, but he has to have it completely done on the exterior by then. There has to be some caveats. And not just one side painted or one window done by then. It has to be completely done. And if it's not, then he needs to bring the contractor in and explain why. But I think we should give him just another season of painting before we put it on the demo list, is my thought.
Appreciate that.
That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, the thing I'm concerned with, we just had our house painted, we had a new roof put on, and no one's asked for the money up front. I mean, that's, and you shouldn't give them the money up front. I mean, that's wrong.
When I first started, the contractor was here with me.
But, I can say Basil's, did our roof, and there was no problem there. A private contractor did our painting, and there was no problem there. We paid them when it was all done. So I don't understand, who in the heck would want $20,000 up front. That's, to me, unbelievable. But, I believe you, what you're saying, I believe that. But yeah, I wouldn't do that either.
Deb, do you have any input?
I would be a little hesitant to give an extension again. But, I mean, how long has this been going on? I'm like you, I just had a kitchen rebuilt. I've had a sunroom that was just tore off and redone. And I didn't have to put any money up front. So, but.
Question I have, is that within our permissible actions to grant an additional extension?
You can, or you could grant an extension for it to come back for your review again, or you could make a motion tonight, either it's eligible or not eligible for demolition, which would then forward it to the city commission, and they also have the power to give an extension. So you would be putting it in their hands to handle any sort of extension that they would deem appropriate at that point. So it's, either way, it's up to the board how you want to. If you want to see it back again, you can grant an extension. If you want to pass it on to the city commission and put it in their hands, I would recommend a motion one way or the other.
Okay. So you look at our two possible courses of action. I will entertain a motion to either send it directly to the city commission or to grant of an extension, but I'm looking at your guesstimation would be almost 90 days, I think, 30, 60, pretty much if you're looking at the end of August. October, okay.
Yeah, just the end of the painting season,
The end of the painting season.
before winter hits, basically. Get it
So
dry season.
I'm willing to entertain a motion from one of y'all, one way or the other, please.
Just kind of for information's sake, the October Preservation Commission meeting would be October 2nd. So if you're talking an extension to October I would suggest a specific
Yes,
date.
thank you. That would have been one of my follow-ups. Thank you very much.
The other question I have for the committee and Mr. Giles, and this is straight out asking you, can you lock, stock, and barrel get the entire thing completed by October? The outside, the cosmetics?
You know what, I think I'm gonna guarantee this one, and, yeah, I can guarantee I can have it, because I take accountability too, because I was 100% sure I was gonna get this grant, and I pushed, and it was like 3-4 months, and I was just waiting. But yeah, like I said, I got money. My family's not poor, number one.
But that's not,
No.
Mr. Giles, I guess it boils down to you either get done by October 2nd or it's gonna be on the demo list is where it's headed, is where this is heading. So
Yeah.
that is your drop dead.
Yeah, and I said yeah, and like I said yeah before, and I
We've been
respect.
working with you, so.
Yeah, I said yeah, I can do that, and I respect everything y'all said and done. Whether it's done, it ended up being a demolition or not, which I don't think it will, and I'll have this thing done. But I'm gonna fight it till the end. But I can guarantee it'll be done before you said that October first time.
would be October 2nd where it would come
October
back
2nd.
before
That's
us
if they choose to give you an
if
extension.
they choose to give you an extension. So at that point, I'm going to close off this conversation and request a motion from one of my commission members on either your options are to grant an extension to October or to pass it forward with a recommendation that it stay on the demolition list. That's the only two options I have.
Yes, so it'd be either an extension to come back to this board.
Yes.
Or a vote that it is eligible for demolition or not eligible for demolition, and neither of those last two options would forward it to the city commission, which would then take an action, either to grant an extension themselves or to go ahead and demolish.
You want me to go ahead and make the motion?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant an extension to Mr. Giles until the October 2nd meeting of the Preservation Commission, at which time the caveat of that is that the exterior needs to be completed and weather tight going into the winter. Anything else I should? I think that's.
I would say also, whatever the city says has to be done, those things have to be completed also.
What's on the city's list, yeah.
Yeah, so again, it's any roof repairs that need to be made,
Windows.
the siding, soffits and eaves, guttering, windows and doors, to include the framing of all windows and doors, and paint, remove all peeling paint, and repaint the entire structure.
Okay.
So I know there's been progress on each of those a little bit, but again, none of them are complete.
Okay. So do I have a second of the motion?
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we grant an extension until the 2nd of October to include the itemized list that we have of items that need to be completed, and then we would review it again at the 2nd of October Preservation Commission meeting. Now, all in favor, I will start with you, sir.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So you've been granted, Mr. Giles, an extension until the 2nd of October. I need you to make sure before you depart today, sir, that you have the items that she has on her list so that when we come back for an additional review on October 2nd at the Preservation Commission, we're simply going to go if they were completed, they were completed. If they are not completed, they're not completed. Then our simple statement and recommendation at that time will be is that it remains eligible for demolition, and that you would have to go to the city commission itself in order to resolve it. I really thank you for your patience with us, and I hope you appreciate our patience on our part. My only additional caveat for you on this is to make sure that you apply for the permits from the city that are going to empower you to be able to complete that, the work that is listed there. I'm not sure what each one of them are, but I encourage you to contact City Hall tomorrow or the day after to find out what permits you need to have and make sure that you acquire that, if you would, please. We would greatly appreciate that.
And can I ask for the city to check off what has been completed also too? 'Cause I feel some of this has been completed.
That again is still past us.
Okay.
But in your conversation, when you come in to find out about the permits, hopefully they'll be able to clarify that for you.
And I found the construction guy with the quote, if y'all would like to see it.
But again, no, I think we've moved past that portion, but we appreciate your time, all right? All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Drive on.
What is the next item that we have, please?
Wendy Shank from Main Street is here, and she would just like to talk to the board about some downtown historic district issues.
Ms. Scheid, if you'd come forward, please.
Part of her job must be waiting.
Yes.
We thank you very much for your patience. I think all of us collectively always hope that we're being very thorough and having a very attentive ear to things that people present to us. So we're ready for some fresh information. So if you would, please.
Well, I'm Wendy Shank from the Main Street Organization, and I don't come very often. I think I know pretty much your objectives with this commission. Main Street is economic development and historic preservation as part of our 2 points of the Main Street approach. So we really do look at preservation when people are buying buildings. As I've attended the tax credit workshops and the Kansas Preservation conferences, and I'm familiar with the staff at KSHS, and I've worked with them personally before I was a Main Street director and as a Main Street director. One thing that came to mind was that possibly a new survey should be done of the downtown historic district. I believe Katrina told me last time that because it's been so long, folks may have to fill out part 1 of the tax credit application, even though I was under the impression that once it's a historic district, you don't have to fill that out. The other possibility would be because there's several properties that maybe when and I wasn't here when the survey was done long ago, possibly could be included in the historic district. To me, tax credits are extremely important. They make up the difference from new construction, demolition, to what people can do to save a historic structure. We are the first city of Kansas, and they're really important. So, I don't know, Christy at Benmore Studio had sent me an email and said that these surveys are eligible for a Heritage Preservation Fund grant. Now, I know that that's passed over. They were due March 1st and or March 30th, so that would be something to think about. I don't know if that comes through Julie's office, if it comes through you to initiate that. If you think it's worthy of that, I have the listing of who the historic properties are downtown. So I'm familiar with that, but I think it would be beneficial if folks didn't have to go through the entire research process of their property and document all that, which is part 1. To me, that's the beauty of having a historic district. Part 1 is done for you as long as your building's listed on that.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Would you
There
be able
are-
to, would you be able to provide that information to us?
Well, I can send you I've got a handout. I can give you this handout. I mean, we are so strapped for resources at Main Street. We're 1.5 paid staff. We're volunteer driven. So, you know, Christy's telling me that, you know, salaries can be included in the grant and all, but I don't know that I have the manpower to do that. I guess I'm asking the city to maybe look at that. I don't know who
Yeah.
did the original.
And I'm not sure either
survey.
who initiated that original one. It's been quite a while since I looked at that original application on the state's website. But we can certainly look into that, and like Wendy mentioned, I know that survey is eligible for funding from the state. to do a survey, especially of a historic district, you have to basically hire a preservation architect or specialist to come in and do that. And so that, that expense is eligible for funds that the state has available every year. So we can certainly take a look into that for 2020. And I know Wendy and I have talked about it a couple of times in the past, just kind of briefly. And I will say too that we've got a new city planner starting on our staff in July, so we will have more staff resources to devote to some things like this that we just haven't been able to take on in the past, so.
So to clarify, we're adding a staff member?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'm not leaving, so, yes, we'll have more time.
And so at that time, when I was at the preservation conference, the state did have funds sitting for grants to be applied for. So I guess this is like plenty of notice to maybe hopefully in 2020, take a look at that. I'm getting ready to apply for some tax credits on our Main Street building that we own, because we have roofing and we have some painting to do and we have some repair work that should be eligible. I'm gonna try and skip over part one and say we're a listed property downtown and hope that flies. I don't know if that will. It should. I mean, that's the
Yeah, and I
guidelines.
wasn't aware either that properties were having to fill out that part one as part of their
That
tax
was
credit
a big shock
applications.
to me when
Yeah,
I was in Lawrence.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
So anyway, hopefully that will fly. I'll hand this out in a moment. So that was one issue. Another issue is, and I realize that you all are concerned on exteriors. I get that. As I'm working with many folks that are buying building, we've had 4 buildings, big buildings sold this year that are in the process of renovation, really ones that are cool structures. So they're looking at upper story development. And this may be a conversation for codes and the planner, but many times the codes don't work real well for upper story development. We're all working towards mixed use development. We want people living downtown. We want them living downtown so they can shop, they can eat out, they can do all the fun experiences. There's a ton of stuff to do downtown. So as I'm looking at upper story development and helping those folks with that, we want to offer some kind of gathering, some kind of a meeting together, maybe with you all, maybe with the codes folks, the planner, so that we can talk about that. I understand that if it was originally a residential unit, they can go back and put a residential unit in, but many times if it's been a office, let's say it was just a little accounting office or something, they are told they have to rip up the beautiful wood floors, rip up the ceiling in the storefront, both areas put a fire-rated material, oftentimes remove the beautiful tin ceilings. Well, I live in a historic home, and if somebody told me that in a historic building, it would be real hard for me to figure out how to relay that beautiful wood floor, how to put that tin ceiling back in. Most people are going to say, well, I'll just do it and I'll just put plywood down and carpet or laminate. I just cover up those beautiful beadboard ceilings, and all of a sudden we don't have a beautiful historic building anymore, even in the storefront level. So I want you all to be aware that those are really passions of mine, that we retain this built structure inside and out downtown. And so, you know, I think if it was a heavy commercial use of, you know, within the last 10 years or whatever, and it was being used as an office or whatever, but some of these places are lost in time. They're turn of the century. They are amazing. They make my day when I get to go see them. But when I have to think about a lot of that built structure having to tear out, I just want to go home and cry. So it's kind of an information meeting to let you know that we do have a lot of cool things happening downtown. We have these people that are ready to, many of them want to live downtown. They want to make it their home while they have a storefront that they lease out. And so how do we not only retain our built structure and our history on the outside, but we also make it somewhat equal to be able to retain and utilize the upper stories. And I think that's the difference in a vibrant community and one that just kind of has some merchants come and go. We found in all of our dealings that when we're trying to get some of these out-of-town owners' properties in other hands, we've been able to find locals that want to buy them, want to live in them, and they have a lot more passion. They care about the community. So obviously that's kind of where we're targeting, but we're trying to provide the resources and the guidance. Obviously, we refer them to Hernley Associates and Ben Moore and Rosen, all of the preservation people. But, you know, currently they know the codes as well, and you know, that's the way it is. So, anyway, I always recommend that they utilize their historic windows. Many people say, oh no, just go ahead and put, you know, replacement windows in. Well, to me, if they're in good shape, that's old growth wood. They can be renovated and restored. They can put an interior storm window if they don't want to change the look of the outside. So those are things that everybody won't do, but maybe some people will. So that could affect the interior and the exterior of a building. You've seen the boarded up windows in some of the buildings. Hopefully a couple of the buildings that you see boarded up will have windows in them. If there's existing windows there, I'll certainly encourage them to renovate those. You know, if it's just a piece of plywood that's been stuck up there and the windows are gone, they'll have to put replacements in. But I think those are the important things. So as we move forward, working with all these different people, I guess I just wanted to start somewhere, and this seemed like a good commission to start with, to let you know that we are passionate about history downtown. Every once in a while, something might happen over the weekend that devastates us, that somebody ripped something off, took something off, or they come to the commission and the commission allows that to happen. But, you know, we try real hard to not let that happen. So I can pass out this kind of information sheet. You want it, or do you want me to pass it out?
You can give it to us and we can make sure they get it, yeah. And I will just say, while Wendy's given that to us, obviously building codes are in place for primarily life safety issues. And I'm personally not familiar with the building code too much. We've got building code officials that deal with that. And so I'm not sure what accommodations can be made for historic structures. I'm assuming there are some that can be made, like you all and Wendy, I've seen it in other places, historic buildings that have been repurposed and reused. So we can certainly start doing some research, and I'll reach out to the state and see if there's maybe some resources for us to look at and what we can do with building codes and working with the historic properties.
And I've been visiting with Ray Stockman, the Historic Society architect, and we'll reach out to KU and K-State. You know, he's recommended that we take a look at, try and get some of their architecture engineering students on board to help out. We'll do that. We'll try and take advantage of every resource we can. There's, and I do look on the National Main Street site. Oftentimes there's listservs where other communities, I can query a question and they'll come back. They're kind of vague at times and really haven't dealt with as deep as I think I'm going here. So, but I'll continue to do that. But I think being the first city of Kansas and as historic as we are, if we can get those upper stories, many of them have the stairs cut out for whatever goofy reason that was, so people couldn't go upstairs. Some have added the stairs back in. I think, you know, the only issue I can see with a vibrant downtown and mixed use is we'll have more parking issues, but you know, that happens everywhere. You don't, as cities grow from big to small, you always have those, and that can be a good thing because there's lots of people coming.
Okay, well, I think we will appreciate the consideration that you provided us, and we're all gonna need to do some research.
Yep.
But primarily, it'll probably come down to what the codes determine. I'm kind of familiar with some of those, but in the in-depth way that you're presenting those, I realize that I'm gonna need to do some real digging on my part, so, but we appreciate that you bringing that to our attention.
Well, I think they're all the 2006, aren't they, Julie, that when I looked them up?
They are, and our inspections department is getting ready to adopt a newer code. I want to say it's the 2016 code that they're getting ready to adopt. But yeah, again, I'm not familiar with what provisions can be made for historic structures and materials and, fire suppression systems. I'm not familiar with that. So we can certainly start doing some research and see if there are things that we can do to work with the property owners so that they're not having to maybe destroy resources that are existing in those buildings.
So I guess you'll keep me in the loop, so I
Yeah.
won't just see a commission agenda 2 days ahead and it'll say adoption of the 2016 building codes.
Well, they are, that department has been instructed by the city commission to adopt those codes, and they're currently working towards that.
Do you think that'll be in a month, 2 months, 6 months?
From what I know, again, I'm not in that department. From what I know, it's gonna be sometime this fall.
Okay, because I believe they're, on the 2016, I have to look back through my notes, from the state architect, if they were, edited isn't the word,
Revised, probably. But still, we wouldn't be able to action that specifically
Yeah.
today. So we're looking at things that you're asking here for at least a ballpark time frame. So I would please ask that you simply re-engage yourself with us sometime in like the
Yeah.
next 60 days, which
Hal
would give us.
Burdette, our chief building inspector, would be the one to talk to you about the specific set of codes
and
that
I've got a
they're
kind of an
adopting.
overview from him that I provide folks that are ready to do some upper story, but it's,
But again, Wendy,
just
it's
kind
not
of an
something that we
overview.
can action today. So we still
Yeah.
are going to have to educate ourselves upon that piece. So I guess just what I'm suggesting is that right now we're kind of at a pause point because we're going to all need to look at some stuff. You're a little bit more versed on it than we are. So engaging us in a conversation on it is just kind of
yep.
just providing us additional information. This is going to help, but I'd like to have the chance to process it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up. I can give you a copy of what Hal sent me as well, if you'd like that.
Sure, if you have it handy.
If you have it handy, yes,
Here's
thank
my
you.
copy of that for
Okay.
you. There's maybe enough of those copies. I don't have a date on that. He provided that sometime. Could have been late 2018. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Take
We
a look
appreciate it.
downtown and see all the cool stuff that's happening.
Julie, a question kind of related to that. When, in line with this survey that could possibly be done, or may need to be done, do we have the means to
No, I haven't.
expand that, assuming that we'll hire some type of consultant to do that, to look at a bigger picture of pulling the groups together in town? I could see spending a day in a workshop with the city and Main Street and the Preservation Commission and the Planning Commission all together and go over those type of things that affect all of us and get us all in the same room
Sure.
for a day. Just a thought to get the information out quickly and to have that quick discourse between the groups on how we can make things more efficient among
And that
all
may
of
be
us.
something that, there are funding opportunities from the state. We could apply to use some of those for a workshop, a training workshop for staff and commission members and Main Street members, in, whatever topic. Maybe it's, expanding historic districts or tax credits or preservation or rehabilitation, whatever we'd want to talk about. So, we certainly, if there's something that the board would like to see us doing, we can certainly work towards that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thanks, Wendy.
Sure. We have another gentleman that's here. Sir, may I inquire as to how it is that you're here? Or you're here to support what Wendy's presenting? Okay, thank you.
He's my new economic development
Okay,
chair.
thank you.
In Dayton.
Thank you.
And I invited him to listen. He recently purchased a building that he's looking at for story development.
Okay, well, thank
And
you.
a great resource for us.
Neat.
He's a good researcher too.
Okay, well, great.
I should have introduced you earlier, Sam.
Well, thank you for joining us. I think the next item is our certificates of appropriateness.
Yep, we just had the minor certificates of appropriateness that you've gotten, some signage, fences, roof replacements. So if you have any questions on those, we can try and answer them.
Did anyone have any questions, concerns, reference those?
Yeah, I went to each of the properties and just looked, and self-explanatory what you sent out, good to go.
Okay, well, then would you care to provide us a motion, reference those
To
properties?
approve?
Yes,
Oh, you don't need
No,
to
I
approve them,
don't.
they're just sort of an FYI.
thank you.
Packet.
That's just different.
Always check that point, though. Is there anything else on our agenda for the evening?
No, I will just let you know that we do have a meeting next month. We've got one agenda item for that.
Okay.
And so that packet will come out.
Will that be the second week of July, since the?
Yeah, it'll be the 10th, July
Okay,
10th.
thank you. Because the 4th is on a Thursday, I believe, this year.
Yes. So we did move that, anticipating that there may be a lot of folks out of town.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
A second.
It has been moved and properly stated that we adjourn this meeting. I'm going to start with
Aye.
Don.
Aye.
And I, and again, as always, I'd like to thank both Julie and Michelle for their attendance and their ability to get us well prepared.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ladies.